Okay, this is Kelly Borsheim here, and I'm working on color. I'm trying to do this a little bit in between monochromatic painting and sculpting marble. So I'm really struggling with this because I don't think in color, but I want to try to push out of my boundaries and play with stuff. So if this sort of experimentation stuff is interesting to you, keep watching, okay? All right, so this was from a photograph of a corridor. It's a long corridor, and there's actually Christmas. There's a couple of reindeer with the white lights, and then there's a big red bow on them, and then these are lights implanted in the ceiling, and they're reflected on the walls here. And down here, the handrail has been decorated with Christmas lights. So the dark represents the wires, and then the light just had it was doing, these reflections everywhere. I don't know why, but I've been making a collection of regular, normal stuff that when I see it in a thumbnail on my computer, I think those shapes are kind of interesting. I wonder if I can learn how to do abstract based off of these particular shapes and combinations. So it's a way, the photographs are kind of a way to train my eye, but also to, work on composition and stuff like that. So now I'm trying to make myself take the time to actually play and not concern myself with making new art as much. I'm still trying to spend a good part of the day doing that. I spend a lot of my time trying to market stuff and get it put into the front of the right people, but it's really important that I grow. So anyway, to get back to this, I felt as though this was a disaster, and I can put up a little video here to show you how I started, and then boom, 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 each still as it went along. So I'll put that in right now. Okay, so I arrived at this point, and I think even though I've been trying to mute this and I like certain things in here. I like the plays of the neutrals with the soft colors and stuff like that. I kind of like this dynamic here. I like this texture that's up here. But in the end, I feel as though I lost my way, in part because it's just too much, and I don't seem to have a theme. So what I did was I went back and I started looking online for other artworks that had palettes similar to this. And I found a couple of paintings that I thought, I like how they did the color combinations, I like how they did the abstract works, and they're using similar stuff. And the main thing that I felt that I came away from that, well, first of all, I used one of those paintings and simplified my palette a lot. I removed some colors that weren't quite as good a match. I don't know if it's going to work or not, to be fair. They're very, very similar in some ways, but some of these are only used in the other painting as an accent on stuff, so they're not a majority. The idea that I'm trying to take with this piece now is that it seems like I need to have a majority of one color theme, color family. Let's see if you can see this. Oh wait, you can't. I have, whoops, up above, you see that there? So I have a color wheel here. It's something I printed off the internet years ago because it puts emotion on what each color means, okay? So there are no grays in this. There's no, it's just giving me an idea of where I want to go and how I want things to move. I decided that I'm going to go with this other painting that I saw, and I think it was Brian Rutenberg. And I started to study some of his abstract compositions because I'm trying to find a logical way to deal with an emotional subject. And I don't know how to explain that, except that one time I told one of my figure drawing teachers, I like the face that I drew, but I don't feel the same emotion looking at what I drew as I feel when I look at the model's face, because we were working with a live model, obviously. And he said to me, we don't draw emotions, we draw lines, shapes, tones, and color. And of course, me being the smart aleck I am, I had to say, I understand that. But for me, it's my emotion that tells me that something's not quite right with my tone, shape, line, and in this case it was a charcoal drawing, there was no color. So I'm feeling the same thing here. My emotion is telling me, good gosh, who dropped the bomb here with this, and I need a little bit of curating to go on, right? So I looked at this one painting and decided to choose the palette for this and study some of the ideas and make it basically a grouping of one family of the colors. In this case, he used magenta and the pinks. And I'm going to go with that right now because I have a sister who loves pink. And I like magenta. It's a very fun, dramatic color. So I'm looking at my painting now and I'm saying, okay, I have magenta here, I have magenta here, magentas and purples up here, kind of the same family, and then scattered throughout. But what if I did some grouping on some of this? Now, he did use a teal as an accent and then a darker teal, which I can't really tell if this is a dark teal or if it's a dark green, but I threw it in there just because it's sort of in the same family. All right, but those were accent colors. So what he really had done was seem to group the pinks in sort of the center, what was the idea, and then he used other texture lines, and then the other bright colors were accents on the sides. So that's what I'm going to try to do right now, is see if I don't totally damage the whole thing. And you know, the other thing about this is I'm not sure how much more pastel the sandpaper can take, because I just cleaned off a whole bunch that dropped down. But I want to not think about that right now, because if I end up liking the result, I can always get a new fresh piece of sandpaper and start over and do the thing again, right? So let's see if I can combine this. I kind of like this subtle thing here. I don't know if I should hang on to that a bit and just work right now in this part and see if I get somewhere. You'll notice that I'm just trying to make strokes here, because one of the beautiful things about layering, especially colors like this, is to see the other colors coming through, and maybe that's a nice effect. I left more here and I put more there. So again, I'm experimenting and I don't really know, but I want to kind of think about grouping things together. Now, I'm using the side of this small piece of pastel that I have here, and we'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll try to get rid of all of this blue, except maybe just on the side. So you'll see I'm keeping the pinks, let it do a little bit of traveling. Now the thing is, he is a brilliant artist, to be sure, and he knows what he's doing, and he's got a lot more experience with this. I don't expect this to be a masterpiece. What I really want is to learn from it. So in that sense, I feel like I need to just kind of chill out and tell myself I don't need a finished product with that. I'm going to minimize the yellow that's in here, because what I took from this was bright oranges for accent. Now, I am going to leave my red there, and that might totally blow the color palette, but I thought I wanted the red, white, with the dark turquoise in the door and the black, that's supposed to be the focal point. Because that was another thing, is I felt like I was doing too much in different places, and the eye was exhausted. It didn't really know where to go. So even though I'm using a super bright palette, which is totally contrary to what I usually do in my work, I got overwhelmed, and maybe viewers would too, I don't know. So I'm going to try to eliminate the red. I'm going to leave this green here because I don't know. I think maybe it could be an interesting thing. Maybe it needs to go colder or warmer, but so I'm going to basically use anything that's in this palette is fair game for me to use, but I'm going to try to group this together. Because one thing I did notice looking at a lot of these really super colorful things, the neutrals are the key to making all this wham bam stuff work, you know. And let's see, this is supposed to be a light pink. So and put in some traveling stuff there. I'm rambling as I'm going on, and of course you realize that I may not be the best person if you're trying to learn from this unless you just like watching people do weird stuff. I have to make sure my fingers are clean. I have a tendency from street painting to want to smooth everything and then later go in with another texture. But it's interesting to try to do it another way. I can't decide if this purple balances that purple, but it could be that this purple is too strong. Maybe this area going, following this little firecracker sort of thing into this area, that needs to be the subject, and maybe for that reason these things need to be knocked down. Okay, so I do have orange that was in his palette, but it was an accent color. So maybe what I should do is keep the strong oranges near this red, because red and orange are also a nice color thing to have together. And you can see that you can't tell looking at this picture it's a Christmas decoration, and I'm totally cool with that. Alright, the ceiling should be getting light from this, but also it would bounce off of that. But I want to use this dark purple somewhere, and I don't know where to do. Maybe under the door? I don't know. That might be putting that area again too much interest. Maybe I can knock out some of the corner here. But I don't want to be too mathematical about everything. So here's a bright blue, which would be a really lot of fun. Let me put something like that in there. Because I learned from Casey Klon that my favorite color, this royal blue, is a great thing that you can actually put it on the outside of the image, but it pulls things forward. And, you know, you can play with that sort of thing. And I'm always surprised that when people do things like he has a painting that I really loved and I remarked on when I was taking a course from him. He had a red wall here, a wee bit of yellow that to me sort of acted like a stop sign. Like instead of your eye going to the red and going off of the page, the yellow was sort of a bright block that said stop right here and go back. And I don't know how that works in the communication of color, but that's why I'm studying color, because I find it fascinating. I can tell you that what I just did here with these, I tend to love these berry colors, really. I'm fascinated, but I like what I just did there. I don't know if it's going to work or look good or anything, but for right now I'm going to leave that as it is. And maybe I want to get rid of this now, I think. Not get rid of it, obviously, but... So, do I put more of the light pink, or do I put a neutral? This is kind of a neutral here. It's a neutral, but it's sort of a muted purple, okay? Although, really, the way it's looking here, it looks a bit orange, but I don't know, it might be because of what I'm adding, because it looks a little different over the orange than it does over the blue. Over the blue, it's starting to look a brown, and this, I don't know. I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, no, 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 no. I don't like that. I don't know why. But I'm going to go back to maybe this bright fuchsia color and see if somehow maybe that can... Do I like that better? I'm not really sure. You can feel free to put comments into this video. I'm cool with that. I mean, you can, you know, experiment along, tell me what you think I should do. I mean, that's cool. Alright. Now, one thing I also noticed was that a lot of times they would put an accent color, they meaning good quality artists that use bright palettes like this, something for a distraction here. I'm not really a fan of this turquoisey pasty color. That's a little bit dark. I kind of like that. But you can see it's starting to pull the eye out. But look at what I'm doing, putting bright colors at the edge of it. I already think this is better than what it was. I think it's a disaster, but I'm kind of enjoying it, and I want to see where that's going to go on the emotion scale. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm going to freeze this for a little bit and go take a break. Let's move this up and look very closely at this. Is it better or is it still a disaster? I know. I'm actually thinking that the pavement, the bottom part of the quarter, I need to change. But I love that dash of blue at the edge. Alright, I'm going to sign off for now. Leave your comments below, please. Thank you very much. Ciao, ciao.